They look like police officers. I'll be absolutely screwed if I get nicked. There's a lot of police officers here now.
All we knew was we were living in a bit of a nightmare, because there's threats coming in. You're discovering people are members of an organisation they're not declaring, including the police. And you start to get a picture of something working under the surface of society.
I have to be super careful, you see, because when I was coming to these court cases, part of what the police did was they dawn raided me and they put me on a contempt of court charge, which would mean that I could face prison, or I'm on a suspended sentence, because they don't want people reporting, they don't want the public watching these videos.
And he then said to me, I think the problem's common purpose. And I said, what's that? And he said, well, it's an organisation. And I said, would you tell me about it? And he said, I'd rather not. So I said, well, I've driven here to talk to you, why won't you talk to me about it? And he said, well, I'd just rather not. I got the impression he was scared.
Most of the American politicians, media and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. The United States is in a state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system.
So from that point on, we started to dig, and what we discovered in Plymouth was that it was everywhere. Police, hospitals, schools, Chamber of Commerce, but we'd never heard of it. So I'm with colleagues in the Chamber of Commerce who are common purpose, but I'd never heard of it.
And they didn't say? There was no
way of knowing? They didn't say, no.
And how had they become part of common purpose, members if you like?
So what we've got is a group of individuals who could include a policeman, a council officer, a local developer, a vicar, maybe somebody from the local university. They are an advisory board for common purpose, and they are selecting in their community who is okay, who is the right material to be common purpose trained.
That's why my KGB instructors specifically made the point, never bother with leftists. Forget about these political prostitutes. Aim higher. This was my instruction. Try to get into large circulation, established conservative media. Reach, filthy rich movie makers, intellectuals, so-called academic circles. Cynical, egocentric people who can look into your eyes with angelic expression and tell you a lie. These are the most recruitable people, people who lack moral principles, who are either too greedy or too suffer from self-importance.
But Julia Middleton, Chief Executive from Common Purpose, has been instrumental in setting up a Media Standards Trust, which is apparently going to help the performance of the media. The only thing is that the office, unless it's moved recently, was actually set up inside the Common Purpose offices. And when you look at the people she's got on her team, they are elitist, including members of the major international banks. So why international banks would like to get involved with the media, I don't know. But I don't think it bodes well.
Well, I think I could probably guess.
So can I.
There's so many incidents where the media representation on what happens and whether it's fair media portrayal is just bullshit. It's like, hold on a minute. And I remember reading another case where a young boy was murdered by Muslims. And the front page of national newspapers was about England footballers being called monkeys. Now that's bad, and it's not fucking on, yeah? But page 17 was about the young lad who got murdered. So it's like, come on, man, get your house in order, media. What are you doing? You sensationalise bullshit. That's what you do. Someone says something or gives someone a dirty look or makes a stupid comment, you sensationalise it. The police as well. You go after them. I'm just hearing about Amy. I'm trying to work out what happened with Amy. Amy's a girl from Speaker's Corner who was arrested in her house for perverting the course of justice. From what I understand, she's had an argument with someone and she said, have a gay day, and she walked off. How does someone face criminal prosecution for that? How is that? Mental.
But something's wrong. We don't know about this charity. It doesn't want to tell us what it's doing. Authorities don't want to tell us how much they're spending on it. And now they've got their little tentacles into the media. I think this is very sinister.
So they can put out statements as the Media Standards Trust and affect what the media is saying?
Well, go on the internet yourself and look at the Media Standards Trust and look at who's involved with it. and they are all elitist people. It's incredible. They are not there, in my opinion, to actually ensure the openness of media. They're there to make sure that what appears in the media fits their view of society.
You know this lad who runs Generation Identity? I found out that the media had been harassing his family. Yeah? You want to harass someone's family? You see that man who was getting aggressive as he walked into court? The man who faces charges of child abduction, rape, prostitution. Harass him. Find him. Go knock on his door. Follow him. See where he works. See what he's doing. You want to stick pictures online and call people and slander people? How about you do it about them? Why would you do that? They do that so that it causes... It's all disruption tactics. It's disruption tactics, and it's to disrupt your life and cause you maximum problems. So, for example, in the early years of my activism, I had my mum sitting down crying, begging me to stop. As I'm sure that young lad who I interviewed just yesterday or the day before, I'm sure his family have done the same now. And that's what they want them to do, which is why they've done it, which is why they highlight who they are, which is why they highlight where he works, because he just lost his job. All of these things play a major part. It's all part of the operation from the far left to silence and stop people. A few more officers have turned up.
But it's interesting that if you look at the figures of graduates, you'll find that the BBC is riddled with common purpose graduates. In fact, I had a call from a BBC person following one of the, I think she saw the Leicester talk that I did, and she said to me, how many people do I think were common purpose graduates in the BBC? And I said to her, well, probably about 500, 500. And she said, I think there's 1,000.
Surely the media should have sat down with him and asked him the questions that I've asked him. You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? But of course they don't want you to listen to him. They don't want you to listen to anyone who speaks out against mass immigration or against the problems that this country faces. They want you to base your opinion and judge him on what they tell you to think.
Are they using NLP training?
I think this is almost certain. We know that they're using behavioural techniques because they admit that. There's a website that was recently set up which I think is called www.commonpurpose.net, and on that website they are refuting claims from extreme... Oh, I am an extremist, by the way. Anybody who...
Not according to you, though.
Pardon?
Not according to you.
No, Common Purpose calls me effectively an extremist. I am BMP, I'm part of an extremist movement.
Which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism.
Excuse me, you just... There's a rape trial going on, yeah? There's a rape trial going on.
Yeah,
okay?
why is it your business?
There's a rape trial going on.
Why is it your business?
So why am I a tosser for reporting on it?
No, you're a tosser for being you.
Yeah, go on, explain it. Explain it. What do you think? What do you think of the 29 young children aged 11 who have been ganged?
It's not my concern.
It's not your concern. It's not my concern. They're young English girls. It's not my concern. This is the problem. You see that? It's not my concern. It's not his concern.
A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it.
Can you believe that bloke? Can you believe that bloke? He's walking past. I'm reporting on the fact that dozens of young children aged 11 have been groomed, raped and prostituted, and it's not any of his business or my business. It's not our problem. That's him. That's the problem. That is part of the problem.
Until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his balls, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism.
Yeah, could be his sister, could be his daughter. Until it is his sister or his daughter, that's the only time he'll probably wake up. Until then, it doesn't matter.
If we take Devon and Cornwall Police, they've racked up over £57,000 in common purpose training. But if you ask them what they get out of it, they can't tell you. And this is the insidious nature of common purpose in the first place, that instead of people working through the rules and structure of their own organisation, they are putting the requests and demands of common purpose above their own organisation.
So it's like a kind of shadow government, isn't it?
It's a shadow government.
Common Purpose is an international leadership development organisation. We are not for profit. We develop leaders who can cross different kinds of boundaries, boundaries of sector, boundaries of specialization, boundaries of geographies, but more importantly in the world of today, boundaries of generation, boundaries of background, and boundaries of belief. We run programs for a range of leaders, right from university students who are at the start of their career to global senior leaders who are at the peak of their career.
These crimes were between 2004 and 2011. Now, obviously, back then, police ignored it. But I guarantee you the parents would have gone to the police in those same time periods. But these men, one of these men is actually working in a chicken shop, I believe. Currently working in a chicken shop in Huddersfield. Would you want your children going into a chicken shop where men are alleged to have gang raped and prostituted and trafficked and drugged young victims? Would you want them having contact?
I understand also, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have read that even criminals are inducted into common purpose.
Absolutely. And
known criminals.
Known criminals.
Is that because they have some influence in the community?
Well, they certainly have major influence in it, but it depends what you think that common purpose is trying to do in society. Common purpose says that it is trying to assist society and create future leaders and educate people. But what we are finding is that where common purpose is operating, never mind what common purpose says, we're finding people who say since common purpose has been operating, things seem to be breaking down.
So do you think that's why they were trying to stop you having this effort to help young people by building
Absolutely,
this shit?
Because what is actually happening in this country is it's being taken apart. I use an expression which is, why does nothing work anymore? If you look out the window and you look at what's happening in society, nothing works. Schools, hospitals, transport, police. You must have seen it, haven't you seen it?
If you want to raise these problems and eradicate them and get to the root cause of the problem, then you have to look at the problem and see what common... If it was any other crime, you look for the... If it was any other crime, you look for the common denominator, didn't you? To try and erode the motives and what's happening. Any other crime, you'd be piecing this together. And you'd be asking why. But you're a bigot and a fascist if you do that same scenario with these sort of... Just so anyone who's watching this who don't know the statistics, 90% of grooming gang, this is a grooming gang, not paedophilia. The majority of paedophilia offences in the UK are committed by white people, as you'd expect from a 90% white country. That's what you'd expect, right? But in a country that has 4% of this population, 3% of the population is Pakistani, 4% of the population, or 5% of the population is Muslim. Now, out of that population, 90% of the grooming gang convictions are Muslim males. 90%. 30% are called Mohammed. These are statistics, they're facts. These are not Tommy Robinson's views, they're just facts. And I know a lot of people don't like facts, but they're facts.
I believe the whole of our society is under an attack, and I state this very freely. If you go and get a copy of this newspaper, on one particular page we've actually got a plan of the attack, and you'll see how each area of society, I'll get there in a minute, if I can show that, that's page 9 of our latest newspaper, if you can see that okay.
Yeah, I think so.
And what it's doing, it's listing the areas of society, it's saying what will be done, and then it's giving a result. And I'll tell you that if you look at families, it's saying that families are to be broken up. And why you do that is if you break the family bond, you then leave the state to claim the children. This is the way it works in communist countries.
The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible.
I find it very significant that Common Purpose is working very hard at the moment to get in amongst the Muslim communities where the family units are still very strong. And I can prove that because we've got the documentation showing what Common Purpose is trying to do. What I I had no idea would happen is that the moment we started to print this paper, people would call us with unbelievable stories of their children being taken. And initially you don't believe it, and then you see the evidence. And what people are talking about are social services working hand in hand with lawyers and barristers and the courts, fabricating evidence, committing perjury in court, falsifying court records, intimidation by the police in order to take people's children away from them.
But why would they want to do this? And is, you know, I'm very...
Three reasons. We believe three main reasons. Okay. One is to break up families. If you look at the way our society is going, families are under continual attack. And you break up families because that alienates mum and dad and it leaves the children vulnerable. Mm-hmm. We are very sure, and I think it's not going to be too long before I don't have to do the research, other people are digging, we believe children are being used for drug testing. And children are dying in hospitals. There is never any proper pathology done on what caused the death, no proper analysis. And we are confident that what's actually going on is drug testing on children. And the other requirement...
Well, these are very serious allegations.
Very serious allegations. And the other thing which we are very certain is children are being deliberately taken from their parents and they are then being put into a system of abuse, which is either physical or sexual.
Well, again, extremely serious allegations, Brian.
Well, I don't sit here making these idly, and I've got no worries about this, because initially when people spoke to us, some you would say, where's the evidence? They're traumatised, they don't have it. But when people arrive with 3 ring files where they're showing falsified papers, they're showing discharge notes from hospitals with no signatures and no diagnosis, and I can show you 4 hospitals involved in that, we know what these people are saying is real. And at a talk in South Wales, 3 ladies stood up on camera with me, and one of them, as an example, said that when she tried to help the mother to stop the daughter being taken, she was threatened by the police.
I don't need to talk to you, I'm sorry. Listen, Greg and Mummy's going to get arrested. They're going to take you anyway.
No, you're not getting arrested!
Listen. We're not getting arrested, listen. You need to stay
calm.
calm.
You just said that.
No, listen, if we carry on fighting...
No.
Listen to your mum, she's got a sister. I have to be super careful, because the police, somewhere right now, there'll be a police officer watching this video saying, can we fuck him? Can we pull him? And what they did me on last time, which was bullshit, was a contempt of court charge where basically 5 Muslims had gang raped a young child who asked for directions. They took her upstairs into their chicken shop and they raped her. I found out about this, and I found out that those 5 men were all on bail. Well, one of them absconded to Afghanistan or something like that, and they got him, but he was remanded. The rest were out on bail. So I found out they're on bail, and then guess what? They're still running the same chicken shop. So I went down to the chicken shop, they locked up the chicken shop, and then I went to the court case. And I stood outside the court, and I said to the police officer, hold on, the people in this community and the people in this town need to be aware that these men are alleged to have gang raped a child. There's still young children going in that chicken shop. So I'd say that the judge failed to protect the British people in that case. Those men should have been... They're all convicted now, they're serving 20 years. They all got convicted. So why were they walking around on bail? Why were they running a chicken shop? Why were they still out? Why? People get remanded for fuck all. Why were they allowed to continue running a chicken shop, dealing with young children in and out of their shop after gang raping a young child who was lost.
What we see are very close links between Common Purpose and Demos, which is, in my view...
think tank, isn't it?
Well, it's a Marxist think tank, in my view.
Yeah.
But we know that Demos is working very closely with Common Purpose. And the bizarre thing at the moment, or the interesting thing, is Demos, which was initially a big policy organisation for Tony Blair, is now helping both the Conservatives and the Lib Dems form policy. That's provable.
And it's also about, the third element is the thing that I think people most associate with it, which is social action, voluntary giving, voluntary action, volunteering, the whole of the voluntary sector, which obviously has been going on for thousands of years. I didn't invent the big society. It's been evident in many of our communities. What I want to do is just make sure that we do more of it, that we enable people to play a bigger role, and community groups and voluntary groups to play a bigger role if they want to.
The psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people, and the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. They will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be a greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him.
Please never stop believing that fighting for what's right is worth it.
You have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign. I mean, she fought very hard.
Are you going to arrest me?
My colleague is going to explain what's going to happen next, right?
Am I being arrested? I am being arrested.
It wasn't a breach of peace.
Of course, a breach of peace. I'm being arrested.
But the content of what you're streaming.
The content of what I'm streaming, I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. I'm being arrested for breach of the peace. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. You've all watched this. Can you get me a solicitor? Can you get me a solicitor?
Can you just turn off your live feed?
Can you get me a solicitor?
Turn off your live feed, please.
Yeah?
Do you understand what I've just said?
No, can you explain it again?
You're under arrest on suspicion causing a breach of the peace.
What does that mean? What does that mean, officer? What does that mean, officer? What does that mean, officer? What does that mean? What does that mean?
So don't try and fight it on your own because you get picked off. Join in with other people. And what we have said is that the aim is definitely no violence. Very, very important, this. And what you do has to be inside the law. The government at the moment, in my professional opinion, if I'm allowed to say it like that, the next step is to increase the financial collapse, and then they are going to foment violence on the streets. And that violence on the streets will be used to trigger the enactment of all of the anti-terrorism legislation, and you are going to be in a police state. So the last thing we need is violence, and I say this to every audience, whether it's to political groups or whether I'm talking to Muslim groups. We are all in this together.
It is now concluded, on the basis of today's investigations, that the threat level should be increased for the time being from severe to critical. This means that their assessment is not only that an attack remains highly likely, but that a further attack may be imminent.
The only way we're going to get out is a Brexit government, and that will clear up this country and get rid of the rabble sitting in that place. And I'll tell you something else, they're all into common purpose, all of them.